Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and my team selection video for Game Week 28. But as always in these videos, we're going to have a couple things that we have to talk about before we go to my plans for this coming game week. First and foremost, we're going to talk about my GW27 score, and then we're going to have the results of the free hit suggestion I had for Game 27 as well. And then finally, before we get to the Game Week 28 plans, I'm going to talk about my Game Week 28 free hit suggestion as well, if you are on a free hit this game week. But yeah, first let's go ahead with the GW27 score, which was another good game week for me, 85 points, minus the 4 points that I did for the 2 transfers. That gave me a slight green arrow of about 2,000 places up, which is my 3rd green arrow in a row, I think, and about my 14th green arrow out of the last 16 or something. So doing pretty well so far this season. Pretty happy about my rank in general, 25k, just about 20 points behind the top 10k, which is my goal this season. 1,725 points in total. 85 of those points came in Game Week 27 due to a pretty good game week. It was a pretty good high-scoring game week for a lot of people in general, because a lot of popular players actually performed this game week. First and foremost, we have Phil Foden, who once again scored a brace, this time against Man United, which is a really good fixture for him. That's why I really wanted to keep Foden. I did sell De Bruyne, though, which is kind of a risk looking back at it. But Foden was just a standout pick for City, as he has been this whole season, pretty much, especially lately. He's just been absolutely fantastic. So the thought of selling him is kind of not so appealing to me, but at the same time, he might have to go for Game Week 30 at least. But that's also more into the future that I'm going to talk about later. But 15 points from the Man United game, another great game for him to get points. Saka as well has been another player that has a blank game week in 29 that has been absolutely on fire lately. Really happy to have him and his 7 points as well. I did bring in Heung-min Son, and he got 7 points, which is 5 more than De Bruyne, so the -4 hit to do De Bruyne to Son actually worked out immediately. And I also want Son for the long term, potentially. Still not sure if I'm going to sell Son or Foden for Game Week 30, but at least I got some points back already from the Son transfer. So 7 points from Son as well. 5 points from the Chelsea boys, Gusto and Palmer. Both of them got 1 assist each. Gusto had an assist. He did lose his clean sheet, sadly, but he still got 5 points, which was pretty nice. I do like Gusto's offensive contributions, and his assist was, again, really, really nice. So Gusto is actually looking pretty good offensively, which I really like in general this season. I did speak about Saka for Arsenal. He also had Gabriel with him with 6 points, but actually, both Saka and Gabriel made me lose rank this week. Even though Saka got 7 points and Gabriel got 6 points, I still lost from the Arsenal clean sheet because several people have Gabriel, and then on top of that have Saliba or Raya. I don't. I only have Gabriel. And a lot of people actually captained Saka this week as well, or a couple of people actually captained him. So he got 7 points, Saka, but he should have had more because he got those 7 points in just the first half against Sheffield United, where Arsenal were just completely obliterating Sheffield United. But luckily for me, most of the offensive talents for Arsenal that scored a lot of points, like Kai Havertz, for example, are really lowly owned. So it didn't really matter that much for my rank. But I did at least get the 7 points from Saka, and I'm happy that I still have him in my squad. Also, this was like the big game week for goalkeepers. I had Dubravka as my starter with 7 points. I was really close. If you watched the team selection video from last week, I actually had Areola starting when I did that video, but then throughout the course of the video, I actually talked myself into going with Dubravka instead. And I think, actually, honestly, it was the right suggestion, because Dubravka had a much easier time of keeping his clean sheet than Areola, who didn't even keep a clean sheet. Areola conceded against Everton, but he did save a penalty, which is something you can't really account for. And he had like 9 saves on top of that or something as well. So huge 13-point score from Areola, but I started Dubravka and I don't really regret it too much either. But it's also just a nice lesson. Dubravka is now the highest scoring goalkeeper in the whole game, so maybe I just should have Areola in goal and just stick to that for the whole season, because I think I've gotten not too far behind Areola in total for the goalkeeper score this season. I think I've had 85 points from my goalkeepers this season, and Areola has scored 99 points so far as the highest scoring goalkeeper. So not the worst goalkeeper luck for me this season. I know a lot of other people have the worst luck, but this game week, in the game week of all the goalkeepers getting a lot of points, I still chose the wrong one. So could have been better, but at the same time, happy to get the 7 points from Dubravka at least. 6 points from Virgil van Dijk. Kind of disappointed with that, actually, against Nottingham Forest. I expected a clean sheet, and I expected maybe some bonus points on top of that, especially seeing as they only won 1-0. I was hoping Van Dijk would have some bonus potential, but the likes of Kelleher and Bradley have been pretty good when it comes to bonus points. So sadly, I only got 6 points from Van Dijk. Could have had 5 points from Doughty instead if I'd sold Van Dijk rather than Doughty last game week. But yeah, at least gain 1 point from that. And I might still keep Van Dijk potentially. I don't think so. He's most likely the one to sell for me. But I might still keep him potentially. But yeah. When it comes to attackers, Haaland as my captain, he got the goal at least for City in the end against Man United. Didn't have the best game, and again, Haaland hasn't been like super good lately. But at the same time, he scored 5 goals in the match against Luton in the cup, so he has that potential in him. It's just it hasn't really shown up in FPL so far after he came back from his injury. But I think Haaland is still just a really dangerous player, and I know he's like one of the most popular players to sell now because he has Liverpool away, then he has a blank in game week 29, and then he has Arsenal at home in game week 30. But I quite like the potential of me having Haaland as sort of a differential now, even against those tough opposing teams. I'm free hitting in 29, so I don't have to worry about him in that game week. But against Liverpool and Arsenal, you don't really expect him to get too many points, but at the same time, he could score a brace in both of those matches because we know Haaland has that potential in general. So quite like the idea of him being a differential for me, potentially in these next upcoming game weeks. Ollie Watkins has just been absolutely fantastic this whole season, the highest scoring player in the whole game, 13 points again. He is just amazing, and yeah, it's going to be really tough to sell him as well. I think I'm going to have to do that in game week 32, I think it is, or game week 31 when he has Man City away, because he has a couple bad fixtures around that time, and I just want to go with double game week players instead rather than having Watkins. But he is potentially a season keeper for the whole entire season because, yeah, so far, so good. He's been absolutely fantastic in getting 13 more points. 2 points from Solanke, that was kind of disappointing. He was a slight doubt going into the game week, so if I had a really good bench option, I probably would have started him over Solanke, but I started Solanke and he started himself. Got 88 minutes, I think, for Bournemouth against Burnley. Should have been more than enough to get like a high score, but 2-0 result for Bournemouth, but Solanke wasn't involved in anything, so 2 points from him. Kind of disappointing. Already talked about Oriol and goalkeeper position on my bench with 13 points. The rest of my bench, not so much when it comes to points. 1 point from Nouri, who plays for our Wolves that are so depleted now that they are kind of struggling in general, which is also kind of hampering Nouri's appeal in general. So I'm hoping that Hwang Hee-chan and Discone will be back pretty soon, hopefully. And Pedro Neto as well, who also had to be taken off injured against Newcastle. But yeah, Nouri is still really nice long-term potential for me, I think. Jared Brantwaite, 0 points against West Ham. Couldn't really do much against West Ham, and yeah, didn't get the points there. And Garnacho with 2 points for Man United against Man City. He also couldn't do really much against the best team potentially in the league, at least the defending champions. So in the end, 85 points minus the 4 points from doing the hit to do De Bruyne to Son. Happy about that though, because it again saves me some money. I could potentially go and sell Son to get Salah in game week 30, which is potentially what I'll do. But yeah, just happy to have both Palmer and Son on board because I think they are both really, really, really good assets to have going forward. Whether you're free hitting in 29 like I am or not, I think they're really good assets. So, and I think they will go up in price a little bit as well pretty soon. But yeah, that was my Gaming 27 score and my recap of it. So let's move on to the free hit draft for Gaming 27 and see how that stacks up to my own team in Gaming 27. Obviously, I have the advantage of picking a squad for that entire or that exact game week. So it should be higher, but this is a high score, so maybe I won't be able to beat it with my free hit draft. But that's not correct. I actually got 95 points with my free hit draft suggestion, which I'm really, really happy with. I did have Salah in the squad and he didn't play. I got 0 points, but luckily for me, as my first bench player, I had Rodrigo Muniz, who just deserves a mention in general. He's just been absolutely fantastic. If you picked him up in any of these past game weeks and you reap the rewards now, congratulations, because yeah, he's just looked fantastic. I think Rodrigo Muniz has looked, when it comes to the eye test, he's just been absolutely terrific, I think, for Fulham. And I think he should keep his starting spot there for Fulham, even though Broja is on loan there from Chelsea. Raul Jimenez is going to come back from injuries and stuff. I think Rodrigo Muniz has a lot in him, and I think he should really keep that starting position until he has like 2 or 3 matches in a row where he doesn't perform. But so far, he's been absolutely fantastic, getting 11 points. Really happy with him as a differential shout, even though it was off the bench, but I needed him because Salah didn't play. I got 11 points from him. And that completed basically an entire squad of returns. Every single player in the starting 11 here, apart from Salah, obviously, who was subbed out for Muniz, actually got a higher score than 3, which is a blank, or like a high-end blank, I guess. Yeah, Every player got 5 points or more, which is absolutely fantastic. 95 points in general. Really happy with this free hit draft. It would have ranked in the game week around 100k, which is really nice when it comes to a game week rank as well. Raya in goal with 6 points, Gabriel with 6 points, doubled up on Arsenal defense, made sense to me. Having Saka as well on top of that also made sense to me. Conor Bradley, I thought he would be a really nice differential for Liverpool as a right back or potentially even higher up in the pitch for Liverpool, and he created a couple of chances. He's basically just a really cheap Trent Alexander-Arnold, basically, until Trent is back. So by the time Trent is back, then Bradley won't be that good of an option. But until Trent has returned, Bradley's going to be a really nice option, even though Liverpool don't have the best fixture now coming up this game week. But yeah, Bradley has just continued to impress, and that's why he was picked into this free draft, and he got 8 points to give me some points back from him as well. Gusto with 5 points and Palmer with 5 points, just as it was with my own team. Foden with 15 points, same as my own team. Saka, Son, also had them in my own team, and they also returned, obviously, here. Same thing with the strikers, Haaland and Watkins with the added points. I didn't have Solanke though, I had Muniz instead, and that's basically where the point difference is compared to my team. It's Bradley over Van Dijk, basically, where he got 2 more points. It's Muniz over Solanke, where he got 9 more points. And then Raya got 1 point less than Dubravka. So that's basically the differences between my own team and this free hit draft. So my own team was actually pretty good when it came to GW27, and the free hit draft was slightly better, but that's just the benefit of having the free reign when it comes to transfers. So really happy with the score in general. Really happy with the team. The bench players, not so much maybe, apart from Areola, who got 13 points on the bench here as well. Would have been nice to have him as a starter, but I think Raya just made more sense as a guy playing Sheffield United. Most likely, more than likely, keeping a clean sheet, which it did. So yeah, really happy about this free draft in general. Don't really have to dwell too much on it. Just another note, the fact that my free drafts lately have been pretty good, so I'm pretty happy about that, seeing as I'm free hitting in 29 myself. Hopefully I can keep this streak going until game 29, and I have another great game week in game 29. But yeah, we'll see about how I do in that game week. But before I get to game 29 and my free draft there, which I'm going to do next week, when we actually arrive at game week 29, I'm going to have a suggestion for game week 28 if you're free hitting in game 28 for some reason. If you don't have any Luton or Bournemouth players and your team is kind of trying to just survive for another week, I guess, maybe you should use your game week free hit, or your free hitting game week 28. But yeah, most likely or ideally you'd use your free hit either in game week 29 or in game week 34, most likely, and I prefer game week 29. But yeah, if you're free hitting in 28, I think this is the team you should go with. And of course, it's stacked up with a lot of players from Bournemouth and Luton, because they do have a double game week, and that always is a huge help in general. I think it's not that important when you look over like a long-term perspective. When you look until like game week 34, which is the next double game week, if you're looking long-term with that and getting like a Luton player who's going to stink up your team for a long while, I don't think it's that valuable. When it comes to free hit, though, 2 fixtures is always going to be better than 1. And in most instances, you'd want to have a double game week player rather than a single game week player when it comes to a free hit, for example. But it's not always the case. But yeah, I quite like these players, especially the Bournemouth players with the fixtures that they have. Sheffield United at home and Luton at home. You just got to pick the best potential Bournemouth players, basically. Quite unhappy to see, or not see, Senesi as an option here, because he would have been the standout defensive option, but Zabarnyi comes in instead as a defender. That's basically down to the fixtures. Zabarnyi doesn't have really any goal threat, doesn't really have that much bonus potential either, but he could very well get 2 clean sheets in this game week, as can Neto in goal for Bournemouth, but he gets some save points and he gets some bonus points as well on top of that usually. So I actually prefer Neto over Zabarnyi in general, as like if you want to pick one out of the 2, I would probably go with Neto instead, but I could just double up with them on a free draft in game 28, so I like both of them. Alfie Doughty is the standout Luton pick, apart from Morris up front. I think Doughty is like the main guy from Luton. I actually have my 3rd Luton guy on the bench in Barkley, because I don't really think there's a 3rd really good option for Luton, especially if you take out Kaminsky to have Neto instead. So yeah, Barkley is actually benched here as my Luton pick, but Doughty and Morris make it in as a defender and striker for Luton. But yeah, I don't really expect Doughty to keep a clean sheet against either Crystal Palace away or Bournemouth away. I don't think Luton has kept a single clean sheet away from home this season, and I don't really expect it to happen this game week either. But Doughty at least has some attacking potential and could get some assists, potentially even a goal. and potentially bonus to go along with that. So yeah, over 2 matches, I think he has just a better chance of getting points than most other defenders. Maybe not more than Gabriel Magalhaes, because he's just been absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to have him in pretty much every single free draft that I have, apart from the game weeks where Arsenal have those fixtures against City and Liverpool, for example. But against Brentford at home, it's a no-brainer to have Gabriel in the team, because he can score set pieces, he can keep clean sheets, he can get bonus points. He's just a perfect defender, basically, in this game. I've also tripled up on Arsenal again this game week, because Arsenal are just in a terrific moment in time when it comes to FPL, especially getting a lot of points all across the board. And Saka and Havertz have been the main beneficiaries when it comes to the offensive part for Arsenal lately. Havertz has 3 double-digit hauls in a row, which is absolutely fantastic. I don't really see why it can't continue against Brentford either. It's a pretty good game for Arsenal. Saka, obviously, the main man for Arsenal on penalties. A pretty given player to have in your free draft for me as well, even though he doesn't have a double game week. But obviously, you only have Bournemouth and Luton with doubles, so you can't really fill up the whole team with double game week players. Bowen is another one with the single game week, plays Burnley at home. He's also a fantastic pick if you want to have someone for Gaming 28 and Gaming 29 if you're not free hitting in 29. I think Bowen is a great pick. I also said this right before he got his hat-trick. Didn't bring him in myself, obviously, which is sad, because I wasn't planning on, or I was planning on free hitting in 29, so I didn't really need Bowen for that reason. But yeah, Bowen, still a good pick, especially with Paqueta back and West Ham playing against Burnley. Should be a pretty easy game for West Ham. And Bowen could be the main guy scoring for West Ham as well. So I really like Bowen as a pick. Cole Palmer, again, also kind of a mainstay in these free hit drafts. He just has a lot of value, plays Newcastle at home. Newcastle are pretty bad defensively this season, and Palmer is just the main man for Chelsea, and he's going to get some points in general. Watkins as well, another player that is pretty much in every single free draft that I make, because he just keeps getting points. Spurs at home. Aston Villa are terrific at home. Spurs are really bad at keeping clean sheets. So I think Watkins is still a really good pick, and he's also, again, another good Gaming 28 and Gaming 29 pick. It's actually pretty nice to see for those of you guys who are not free hitting in 29. It's nice to see a couple Luton players and the likes of Watkins and Bowen and stuff that you can actually keep for 2 game weeks. Not just Gaming 28, but also Gaming 29 if you are playing Gaming 29 without a free hit. So you have a couple of nice options there as well if you're not free hitting. Carlton Morris is one of those guys. Plays a double game week in Gaming 28 and has a fixture in Gaming 29. But I have him here for the free draft in Gaming 28 because he has Crystal Palace away and Bournemouth away, 2 teams that could concede goals. I think Morris has decent potential, and he's therefore my vice captain because he has 2 matches, which is better than Saka and Havertz with 1 match. So I do slightly expect more points from Morris in general, and at least the baseline of getting 2 appearance points from both matches, meaning 4 points guaranteed, pretty much, unless he gets yellow cards and stuff, or gets subbed off early. I think that's really good for Morris in terms of his floor. In terms of his ceiling, he could score some goals. He's on penalties for Luton. He's been pretty good lately. He's actually kind of matched Haaland the last few game weeks, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the away fixtures isn't really the best for Luton, but at the same time, Morris has a decent track record, and he also has 2 fixtures, so yeah, he's a pretty good vice captaincy choice. But the clear captaincy choice this week is Solanke. Yes, he blanked last game week against Burnley, but still playing Sheffield United at home and Luton at home, double game week. Can't really ask for much better fixtures than that. And for what it's worth, I think obviously on a free hit draft you wouldn't be able to triple captain him, but if you have your triple captaincy chip left, there is a good case to be made for Solanke as the main guy to be a triple captaincy guy for you. But yeah, you could wait for Højlund in Gaming 34, for example. You could wait for Gaming 37 potentially if you want to do that. But I think Solanke is a pretty nice and safe choice for now, at least. He's been really good this season. Bournemouth should be the favorites in both of these games. And if Bournemouth win both those games, you expect Solanke to get goal returns in both matches, to be honest. So I really like Solanke as a captaincy choice as well. On the bench, Areola in goal against Burnley at home. I think that makes sense. He's probably going to get another huge hole on my bench. When it comes to the free hit drafts, I'm going to play him in my own draft. Spoilers for my Gaming 28 draft myself. Then we have Barkley, who I mentioned has the double away fixtures. Not really too fond of that, so yeah, he gets the bench spot. And then finally on the bench, you also have Emerson playing against Burnley at home, and Munoz for Crystal Palace playing against Luton at home, which is kind of counterintuitive because we were expecting Morris to, or hoping, I guess, with this free draft for Morris to score. But I think Palace has a decent chance to keep a clean sheet as well. And Munoz could get some attacking returns because he's a really offensive fullback, so he makes the squad as well. So with the free drafts out of the way, let's take a look at my plans for Game Week 28 with my current team, and they are as follows. Basically, I have one free transfer to use before I free hit in Game Week 29, because when you free hit in 29, you won't be able to carry over a transfer. So even if I did save a transfer here, the free hit in 29 would negate that transfer, and I would still be stuck on just one transfer in Game Week 30 if you didn't know that already. So I need to use my one transfer, and I think the most likely candidate to be sold is Virgil van Dijk. Because yes, he has some good fixtures after Game Week 30, but he's also quite expensive, and I kind of need the money to be able to go from, in one move, go from Foden to Salah. I think is still my plan for Game Week 30. It just depends a little bit if I want to go from Foden to Salah or if I'm going to go with Son to Salah, because Son is a bit more expensive than Foden. So if I decide to go with Foden, I basically need a 5.0 defender or less as a replacement for Virgil van Dijk. But if I go from Son to Salah in Game Week 30, I can get a bit of a more expensive defender. And that's why I'm looking between either going from Virgil van Dijk to Zabarnyi from Bournemouth, who has the double game week obviously, and potentially a double game week in Game Week 34 as well, which would be absolutely amazing. Or I could go from Virgil van Dijk to Saliba, but that would pretty much lock in Son to Salah rather than Foden to Salah in Game Week 30. Because I could still, even if I get Zabarnyi, I could still do Son to Salah in Game Week 30 if Foden still looks absolutely amazing in the meantime. But if I do Van Dijk to Saliba, I'm pretty much stuck with having to sell Son. And if Son looks terrific in these next few game weeks, then I wouldn't really want to sell him in Game Week 30 either, because they do have some pretty nice fixtures in that run as well, Spurs. So basically it comes down to that. It also comes down a little bit to how I view Zabarnyi towards or compared to Saliba. Most likely Arsenal will not double in Game Week 34, and I will wildcard to get Arsenal players in for Game Week 37 when they do double, most likely. So Saliba isn't as needed currently, and also I might just want to leave that Arsenal spot open for an attacking player like Havertz, for example, or Gabriel Jesus if he comes back and plays really well, or Martinelli if he's healthy and he plays really well as well. So I might just want to keep that third Arsenal spot, maybe even a Raya in goal potentially at some point. So I'm leaning towards doing Virgil van Dijk to Zabarnyi and complete my team here, because obviously with Van Dijk on the bench currently because he plays Man City, if he is replaced by Zabarnyi, I would have to bench someone, and I think it's pretty easy. I think it would be Malo Gusto playing against Newcastle, because I do expect Newcastle to score that game. So it would be a nice swap to get Zabarnyi in for Gusto, who I don't really think has that much potential in the game against Newcastle. Could also potentially bench Aït-Nouri playing at Fulham, because Wolves have so many injuries and stuff, but Fulham at home, I think that's just an easier game than Newcastle at home for Gusto, and I think Aït-Nouri has just about the same amount of attacking threat as Gusto does have currently. So yeah, if I do bring in Zabarnyi, which I'm most likely going to do for Van Dijk, or if I bring in Saliba for that matter, I will bench Gusto to make way for the new defender. But most likely it's going to be Zabarnyi. I'm pretty sad that it's not Senesi, because I think he would be just a better option, like I mentioned a couple times in this video already. But Zabarnyi will have to make do, and it would be kind of typical for Zabarnyi to all of a sudden score like one of his first goals, probably his first goal I think for Bournemouth, and one of his few goals in his career when we all need him to. So I kind of can see that happening. The reason I would go with Zabarnyi rather than someone like Kirkis or Smith, for example, is the fact that Zabarnyi actually has potential to play in Game Week 34 as well. So yeah, he's just a better pick in general, I think. Could also do a goalkeeper swap of doing Areola to Neto. Again, this is also sort of negated a little bit by the fact that I do already have Dubravka as my backup goalkeeper, because he's going to most likely have a double game week in 34. So the absolute top level for Neto would probably not be as high as it could be, because I think Dubravka is still a better goalkeeper potentially in Game Week 34, or at least equally as good goalkeeper as Neto in Game Week 34. So the Neto upside would be this game week obviously against Sheffield United at home and Luton at home. I did have him as my starting goalkeeper for my free hit team, so it might just be worth it for this game week alone, and also Bournemouth having pretty good fixtures in Game Week 30 and beyond as well. Could count for Neto, but I think Areola, he's the high scoring goalkeeper this season. For a reason, and yeah, I think I might just stick with Areola and Dubravka. I think it's still an okay situation, and I also don't really like using transfers on goalkeepers as well, because yeah, it's just really hard to predict goalkeepers in general. So I might do that as an additional -4, just because Neto has more fixtures than Areola currently. Seeing as I am going to free hit in 29, I don't really need Areola, and Dubravka still has that double game 34 most likely, where Neto is more uncertain when it comes to the double game week in 34. So most likely I'm doing Van Dijk to Zabarnyi. Maybe I'll do Neto on top of that for Areola, but yeah, I think I'm gonna just stick to this plan. And the good thing about my team is the fact that I do have 3.9 million in the bank. And if I do Van Dijk to Zabarnyi, I'll have even more money in the bank, which will give me enough money to do Foden to Saka just straight up. I don't need to do any other transfers. I don't need to sell Haaland, which is amazing. Can keep Haaland against Liverpool. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to bring Haaland back. I can save those transfers to bring in players that double in Game Week 34. So I think my team is just really well set up for free hitting in 29 and having a really good team still for Game Week 34 as well, especially with a lot of good players in here. With Garnacho, who has a double game week in 34 most likely. Dubravka has a double game week in 34 most likely. Branthwaite might get a double game week in 34. Solanke might have a double game week in 34. And also Zabarnyi, who I'm bringing in, might also have a double game week in 34. So already looking pretty good for game week 34 without a free hit there. So it makes all the sense in the world for me to free hit in 29. Otherwise, I would have to wildcard, and I just don't think that's part of my plans currently. If you do own a wildcard, I did put out the video on how you can do a wildcard and still free hit in 29. As an alternative to all the other people that are wildcarding in Game 28 to have a team to play in Game 29. But I think there's a different way you can solve that as well. But check out my video earlier this week if you want to see that as well. But that's pretty much it for the team this game week. Solanke, the obvious captain, as I just mentioned previously in this video. I think the team sort of picks itself. Garnacho maybe over Foden. That's also a different thing I have to decide whether I want to play Garnacho or Foden. I think Son is pretty much a given. Aston Villa are playing at home, so it's a tough-ish game, but Spurs usually score. And Son is usually the one to score for Spurs. And I think they can easily score against Aston Villa and their depleted defense. So Son stays in. Watkins I already like. Haaland I like better than Foden, so it's either Foden or Garnacho basically. Garnacho scored that beautiful bicycle kick against Everton last time, so maybe I want to go with Garnacho, but he's been nothing but pain for me in FPL as a member of my team, basically, because his major haul against West Ham I benched him for another game week where he returned, and every time I started him, he's been pretty bad. So I'm guessing if I bench him, he's going to get a double-digit return, and if I start him, he's going to just blank again. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you would do in this situation. Would you have Foden on the bench, or would you have Garnacho on the bench? I think Foden is like a kind of nice differential, and I think they could score some goals against Liverpool. Liverpool have a lot of injuries defensively themselves, or injuries in general, so maybe City can run away with this game. Arsenal just beat Liverpool 3-1 and probably should have won by even more not too long ago, so I think City actually are the better team in this instance. But it is at Anfield. Liverpool are really good at Anfield, so maybe I should bench Foden, but yeah, I think I just slightly prefer him over Garnacho currently. So those are basically my Game Week 28 plans. Then Game Week 29, I'm going to free hit. And I still have some pretty nice plans for the future as well to have a really good team in Game Week 34. Then I'm going to wildcard in Game Week 36 most likely. I'm not going to wildcard in 35 like many other people are looking to do, because in Game Week 35, I'll still have those Newcastle and Man United players from the Game Week 34 double that are going to play in Game Week 35, where Man United play against Burnley at home and Newcastle play against Sheffield United at home. So I wouldn't want to wildcard out of that team, and I would wildcard down in Game Week 36 and have a really good bench boost teams for Game Week 37 as well, which is pretty much optimal for how you use your bench boost. Use it 1 week after you wildcarded. That's basically the prime time to do a bench boost, because it's really hard to plan in advance, and I think that's another good reason to do the free hit 29 strategy, because you can basically, if you have a wildcard left, you can free hit in 29 and then wildcard right before you bench boost, rather than building a team from Game Week 30 all the way up to Game Week 37, where you might get some injuries, you might get a lot of different things that happen, maybe some fixtures get rescheduled and that you didn't think of and stuff. So I think it's just easier to plan if you have a wildcard in Game Week 36. And I think my team, especially my team, for what it's worth, won't suffer that much in the meantime, because I don't have to sell Haaland, don't really have to reconfigure that much either. I have a pretty good team when it comes to having cheap players and stuff, players that potentially double in 34 as well. So yeah, pretty well set up with my team, pretty happy with my plans, and looking forward to the future, and also looking forward to the future of this channel when it comes to videos. I still have to do the FPL Score podcast this week as well. I haven't done that yet, because I'm still waiting to give Kevin some time to join the podcast, because it was looking tough for us to do a podcast together this week, but maybe we'll be able to film that right now after I've finished recording this video. So hopefully you get to enjoy that video with me and Kevin as well. But the FPL Score podcast will come out with the manager of the week and stuff, and that will be my final video this week. So look forward to that, and we're going to keep up next week and be more on the ball straight away. This past week, I wasn't able to do the review on Monday when it comes to the weekends fixtures, the FPL test, which I usually do on Mondays. Wasn't able to do that because I didn't really watch that many games this past weekend because I was at a cabin going skiing basically. But yeah, that'll be back next week for sure. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. And as always, hope to see you next time. Bye bye.